The fact that you are reading these lines right now, while seemingly a simple encounter on the surface, is the culmination of a far more complex alignment deep within the quantum field, for no true intersection is merely a matter of coincidence. The frequency emitted by your consciousness has long been approaching an inner threshold, creating signals in the external world that are in harmony with it, and this video has appeared before you as a link in that chain of signals. You may interpret this as an impulse of curiosity, or perhaps an inexplicable feeling of attraction. But the quantum field does not use the language of coincidence. It only shows the ready observer the information they are ready for. When a subtle shift in vibration within you, perhaps the unease, uncertainty, or inexplicable inner expansion you've been feeling lately is detected by the field, a new possibility opens up in the fabric of reality that resonates with you. Therefore, the appearance of this video before you, right here and now, is the result of a silent alignment occurring within your internal timeline. Perhaps you felt some thoughts repeating themselves, the same scenes being replayed with different faces. Perhaps there was a slight pang in the back of your mind, a feeling that things can't go on like this anymore. That pang is like a signal in the quantum field, and the system that detects this signal moves you closer to the information of transformation. Because every consciousness attracts information according to its own frequency signature. You are no longer interacting with your old frequency, but with a new vibration preparing for growth. This explains why you have been encountering certain symbols, sentences, and content frequently lately. When the observer changes, the field of observation also changes. Without you realizing it, the internal parameters of the observer may have begun to rearrange. It's as if an invisible hand is gently lifting you from where you are and guiding you towards a broader perception of reality. And your presence here now is precisely the result of this guidance. If even the quietest voice within you says, "This carries a message for me," it indicates that your awareness has entered a new phase, because the quantum field does not open itself to a consciousness that is not ready. Only the consciousness that hears the door, not the one knocking, is called in. And you are hearing that call right now, whether what you feel at this point is a gentle warmth, a rising curiosity, or an inexplicable feeling of being in the right place at the right time. It all stems from the same source, alignment. And if you wish to embrace this alignment, writing, "I am aligned with this message," below will further clarify this space. Because words, in quantum consciousness, are the concrete form of intention, simultaneously stabilizing and expanding its vibration. Therefore, your presence here is not merely a beginning. It is the consciousness field saying to you, now you are ready. You are stepping into a reality that expands as you become aware, and as it expands, it calls forth more. Whether you interpret this as the voice of destiny or as the broken mask of coincidence, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are now hearing this call. This video is not a programmed coincidence for you. It is a response drawn by your inner frequency, and this response itself is the first sign of transformation. The way this call reaches you may not always be so quiet and graceful. Sometimes a video, sometimes a sentence, sometimes even a small word from someone you don't know can open the same frequency door, because the quantum field doesn't need loud noises to speak to you. It simply senses which reality your vibration is ready to transition into, and sends you the most appropriate symbol to carry you to that reality. That's exactly what you're feeling right now. That vibration rising from within, perhaps one you can't fully express, but which says something is changing. This is the first stirring of a transition to a new level of consciousness, and the moment you notice this stirring, you know you can't go back to your old self. Because once awareness expands, there's no going back. From this point on, you shouldn't underestimate any sign that comes your way. For each one is a different echo of the same sentence. You are ready. The moment you realize you open your eyes every morning with the same feeling, that's when you begin to become the architect of your own reality. Because this feeling of repetition is not so much a situation imposed on you by the outside world, but rather a replay of a cycle recorded in your conscious mind as an observer. At the quantum level, Reality is like a record fed by the observer's expectations. Whatever feeling, perception, and outcome you expect, your consciousness reproduces that frequency, and thus the same scene returns at different times, with different faces, but with the same vibration. Therefore, when you ask yourself, why does this repetition always happen? You begin to realize that your own internal data is actually echoing in the external world. A person changes, a city changes, a relationship ends, a job is finished. But the scene remains the same, because as long as the observer's cycle is not broken, the mind recalls the vibration it recognizes most. This is not to punish you, but to awaken your awareness. The quantum field works with leaps in consciousness. When you begin to question the old program, the field sends you experiences that will deepen this questioning. That's why some events happen again and again, until you see your own trace within that cycle and decipher it. It's not fate that brings the same person to you in different bodies. It's frequency. It's not coincidence that makes you feel the same emotion in a new event. It's the observer effect, because consciousness wants to create scenes that confirm itself. It finds security in the vibration it recognizes. Even pain feels peaceful to the mind if it's familiar. As long as the cycle remains unbroken, reality solidifies, and you ask yourself, why isn't my life changing? More and more often, in fact, change is about to begin. Because the consciousness asking this question has now become aware of the cycle, this is where the break begins. When the observer begins to see its own records, the record must change. But breaking the cycle is possible not only by changing behavior, but also by changing the frequency of expectation. Because the quantum field doesn't produce results, it only amplifies expectation. Therefore, even when something that hasn't yet happened is repeatedly visualized in your mind, the field mistakes it for reality and reflects the same vibration back. If you've been experiencing the same emotion, the same disappointment, or the same mental clash over and over again for a long time, the reason isn't the external world, it's the observer's cycle still being active. So why is this cycle so persistent? Because consciousness repeatedly brings unresolved emotions, misunderstood scenes, and unfinished stories to the forefront, giving you the opportunity to transform them. At some point, you realize that it's not the event itself, but the emotion it evokes that sustains the cycle. In other words, reality flows from the inside out, not from the outside in. When you become aware of this flow direction, your timeline also changes, because you are no longer the person questioning, why again? But the consciousness asking, am I creating this? And that question itself is a new frequency. Interestingly, when the observer cycle begins to break, the outside world also notices. Relationships change, conversations deepen, some people distance themselves from you, while others unexpectedly draw closer. Because as your frequency changes, so does which scene you align with. As long as you insist on the old vibration, the same scenes will return. But when you move to a new awareness, the cycle breaks, and reality opens up a whole new field of possibilities. Many people experience a brief feeling of chaos when they realize this, because the familiar record of the mind slowly stops, and a new melody of vibration begins to take its place. This moment of transition may feel like discomfort, but it is actually a synchronization shift. The mind silently whispers, a different scene is now possible. The moment you hear this whisper, the cycle has already begun to unravel, and each unraveling opens a new space in consciousness. That space has the power to summon a reality you have never experienced before. Therefore, waking up to the same scene is not a mistake, but a call, because becoming aware of a cycle is the first and most powerful step in breaking that cycle. The slight discomfort you feel is actually the vibration of consciousness expansion. Therefore, recurring scenes do not imprison you, they awaken you. This awareness is the beginning of the transformation that will change the cycle forever. The most surprising aspect of the quantum field is that it never speaks loudly, never pressures you, and never says, now, but rather, you've already arrived. This is because the field always senses the arrival of change before you do, and sends subtle vibrations, not harsh signals, to show you. If you've felt a strange intensity lately, a slight but constant pressure, as if something deep inside is beginning to unravel. This pressure isn't a threat. It's a call. A consciousness ready for change first manifests itself as restlessness. Because it no longer wants to carry its current frequency, its old state feels like an oversized garment. That's why some mornings your heart beats faster for no reason. Some nights feelings you thought were closed surface. And some moments you experience such a deep vibration that you stand still and wonder, why do I feel this way? Know that none of this is random. When the quantum field senses your inner expansion, it begins to give you the message, you can change now. And it does so in a wordless, silent language. This language sometimes manifests as a repetitive sequence of numbers, sometimes as a dream, sometimes as an overlap of symbols dealing with the same theme, and sometimes as a powerful meaning within a seemingly ordinary event. If you've recently found yourself thinking, this is very strange, it's as if someone is telling me something, it's not because of your subconscious, but because of the field itself. Because when you cross an inner threshold, reality reacts. When the observer's frequency changes, the world cannot remain the same. That's why you might feel the urge to distance yourself from certain relationships, realize that some habits no longer serve you, or even feel that some thoughts aren't as powerful as they used to be. These are not endings, but the first stirrings of transformation. The quantum field allows old energies to dissolve, paving the way for new energies to settle in. Every inner push you experience is actually a new line of possibility calling you. But the field never forcibly pulls you, it only guides you. If you feel this guidance, it's because your vibration is beginning to resonate with a different future. If you've had this feeling for a few days or weeks that something is coming, but I don't know what it is, this is precisely the moment when your new identity, new way of thinking, and new experience of reality are waiting at the door. This feeling is not doubt, but an intuition. Because consciousness first perceives new information as energy, and it reaches the mind last. So you have actually already begun to change. Your mind just hasn't yet found the words to describe this change. The quantum field works like this. Vibration comes first, then meaning. That's why sometimes you feel a deep relief or a deep pressure without any logical explanation. This pressure indicates that your old self is beginning to dissolve. The relief shows that the new frequency is suitable for you. All the inner conflicts, all the indecisiveness, all the intense emotions you are experiencing right now may point to one thing. You are moving towards a new version of yourself. And interestingly, it is no longer possible to stop this progress. Because once consciousness expands, it cannot shrink again. Even if you try to go back, your new awareness will not keep you in the old vibration. That vibration has become too narrow for you. This is why the silent warnings of the quantum field push you forward in both challenging and compassionate ways. It's challenging because it doesn't allow you to stay where you are. It's compassionate because it never burdens you with more than you can handle. Sometimes, just a glance, a sentence, or a feeling is powerful enough to break down a wall you've been carrying for days, perhaps even years, because the field ensures you encounter the right information at the right time. If you're thinking, yes, I think things need to change now, it's not you speaking, it's your frequency, because you've reached the threshold needed to break free from old cycles and move into a new timeline. The fact that this video appears before you at this very moment is not a coincidence, but an alignment. The silent warning of the quantum field is, you can change now. And the moment you hear this warning, the process of change has already begun. Most people don't notice the moment the timeline breaks, because change accelerates internally, not externally. But once you feel that acceleration, the flow of reality seems to gain momentum spontaneously. Days pass faster than normal, events pile up, signs overlap, and even events you thought were coincidences appear sequentially, as if organized by an invisible force. This isn't because the external world is changing, but because your frequency is beginning to resonate with a new timeline. At the quantum level, time doesn't progress as a linear line. It adapts to the rhythm of the vibrational band the observer's consciousness shifts to. That's why the world seems to accelerate as you approach the inner threshold, suddenly seeing symbols one after another on the same day. a long-awaited sign appearing unexpectedly, or a situation that has remained unresolved for years, becoming active within a few days. This is the result of this break. When the timeline breaks, the universe begins to propel you forward because it's no longer possible to remain at the old frequency. As consciousness expands, the old rhythm can no longer carry you. That's why you suddenly find yourself on the verge of new decisions, moving away from old habits, or rapidly severing ties with certain people. Sometimes an unexpected phone call, a dream, or a single sentence can be powerful enough to shake you. Because at that moment, the already accelerated reality throws you into a new flow that you must adapt to. Although this acceleration may seem chaotic from the outside, it actually works with perfect order. The universe begins to dissolve everything unnecessary, bring it to the surface, and confront you with the areas where you need to let go in order to push you forward. That's why the breaking of the timeline often begins with the rapid dissolution of old energies. Thoughts your mind can no longer hold disperse. Bonds your heart can no longer bear are broken, and scenes that your soul is no longer in harmony with close spontaneously. These closures don't punish you for what you've lost. They lighten the load so you can move to a more suitable rhythm. Because a faster frequency demands a lighter burden. This is why you sometimes experience an awareness, a loss, an opportunity, and an intuition burst all in the same day. You are in the transition zone between timelines. This period, like the transition between two musical pieces, is short, intense, and decisive. What you let go of and what you choose here determines the reality you will move forward in. If you've been experiencing feelings like, "My life has sped up," "Everything is happening so fast," or "A flow is pulling me along," in recent weeks, this isn't just a psychological state. It's a real frequency shift. When the observer adapts to the new rhythm, it's normal for events to occur in quick succession, energy to increase, and inner intuition to strengthen. This is because time, along with the observer's consciousness, reorganizes its flow. The most interesting aspect of this is that when the timeline breaks, not only do events accelerate, but the flow of information within you also accelerates. Suddenly, you know where the right decisions are coming from without realizing it. You feel, "It must be this way." Even when you can't explain certain things, you have clearer intuitions about people, and you can no longer unnecessarily remain in situations that exhaust you. When time accelerates, consciousness also accelerates. And this acceleration is not a crisis, but an adaptation. Because the new timeline cannot carry your old mental resistances, therefore internal impulses, emotional fluctuations, and sudden realizations are normal during this period. They are all vibrations of the transition zone. The universe doesn't pull you forward. It only responds to the frequency you open up. When you say, "I'm ready," the field recalculates the course and doesn't keep you waiting where you are. Thus, reality accelerates, events align, and you enter a new flow without even realizing it. This is why sometimes what you experience in a single day is more instructive than the sum of a month. Because where the timeline breaks, it's not the quantity of time that increases, but its impact. If life is accelerating where you are now, it's not to exhaust you, but to carry you forward. The purpose of this acceleration is not to catch you unprepared, but to get you to the point where you are already ready, via the shortest possible vibrational path. And the moment you notice this acceleration, know that reality doesn't resist you, it aligns with you. This alignment is the very moment when your transformation accelerates, when you step into a new timeline. When you begin to align with your higher self, you often notice it not as a moment of great enlightenment, but as a small but profound wave of inner clarity. It's as if a voice that your mind has long tried to silence has begun to regain strength, and this voice no longer speaks like a whisper, but like a guiding mentor. The reason this inner voice becomes increasingly prominent isn't because you suddenly become wiser or the outside world miraculously changes. It's because your resonance with your higher self increases as your frequency of consciousness rises. Your higher self is your broadest, sharpest, and most holistic state. It is not limited by fears from the past, nor clouded by anxieties about the future, but carries only the truth of your essence. Therefore, its voice is different from the voice of your mind. The mind calculates, but it knows. The mind gathers possibilities, but it shows the way. And the more aligned you become, the thinner the veil between you becomes. If you suddenly start making decisions you haven't made lately, if you can see the underlying reasons for things that previously left you hesitant, or if you feel the urge to make a change you've been putting off for years, this is a sign that you're getting closer to the frequency of your higher self. Because your higher self doesn't tell you what will happen, it guides you to where you need to be. Its guidance is silent and sharp. Sometimes a single word, a single inner feeling, or a single sentence is enough to untangle a knot you've been carrying for a long time. This isn't because your inner voice has become stronger, but because you've shifted to the same vibration as it. While the mind is noisy, the higher self is silent. But as you learn to silence your mind, you begin to hear the voice in the silence. That's why many people feel lonely, withdrawn, or more lost in thought than usual during periods of inner alignment. They don't realize they're not actually alone. It's just that their higher self has become more visible. Do you know why your inner voice is clearer now? Because the inner programs that were trying to suppress it have begun to dissolve. When your fears lose control, when mental cycles weaken, and when your old identity feels constricting, your higher self begins to speak. True transformation begins when your mind becomes receptive to it. One of the most important things to remember in this transformation is that the voice of your higher self never rushes, insists, or frightens. If you feel a feeling constricting you or a thought causing panic, it's not your higher self, but your old patterns dissolving. The voice of your higher self is calm, clear, and decisive. It creates a sense of openness in your heart and clarity in your mind. It's not the voice that says, "I must do this, but this is right." It's not the voice that says, "I hope it happens," but the knowledge that says, "It will happen." And when you begin to surrender to this knowledge, the flow of your life visibly begins to change. Suddenly, the right people appear in your life, your thoughts manifest quickly, and events you considered coincidences begin to make sense. Because when you align with your higher self, you don't clash with the universe, you harmonize with it. This alignment, parallel to the strengthening of your inner voice, regulates the flow of the external world. When there is clarity within, chaos outside ceases. This is why in recent weeks, your feelings have been stronger, your intuition sharper, or you've been making accurate judgments about certain people very quickly. Your higher self is like your shortcut. It solves things you've analyzed at length with a single feeling. And if that feeling, which used to seem confusing, now feels natural, it means you're now on the same frequency as it. Another sign of this alignment is emotional cleansing. Some days you're more emotional than usual. You remember past events with a more mature perspective. You feel an inexplicable compassion or distance towards some people. All of this stems from the dissolution of old vibrational remnants as you align with your higher self. Because your higher self carries you into the future, but it cannot carry you with the burden of the past. Therefore, inner shifts, spiritual fluctuations, and sudden awarenesses are all natural processes preparing you for a new level of consciousness. Aligning with your higher self is not a goal, but a state of being. As you transition to this state, your reality is shaped accordingly. Now you know why your inner voice is so clear. You have reached the same frequency as a higher version of yourself. And this is one of the strongest signs of transformation. The invitation from the quantum field is never a command, a compulsion, or a call from above. Rather, it is a gentle reminder of a truth you already knew deep down but are now ready to hear. That is why this video has appeared before you right now. Because the moment consciousness becomes aware of its own expansion, it begins to vibrate in the same rhythm as the field, and this alignment transforms even seemingly ordinary moments into a symbolic gateway. Perhaps you have felt for a long time that something needed to change in your life. Perhaps you have been trying to decipher the meaning of the strange acceleration you have been experiencing for some time, or perhaps you've been wondering why your inner voice has become so clear. The opening of a line of possibility is possible through the vibration of the observer. And if you are reading these lines today, it is silent proof that this vibration has reached a new level. You may feel a little lighter, a little empty, a little excited, or a little restless. All are natural effects of the new frequency beginning to settle in your body as the old frequency dissolves. The acceleration of your timeline, the strengthening of your inner voice, and the increase in the symbols you encounter are simply working parts of the process. Each of these is a door aligned to carry you to your next level of consciousness. And yes, the universe doesn't open these doors for you. It only brings you to them when you're ready to open them. Therefore, no coincidence, no repetition, no burst of intuition, and no inner impulse is in vain. The invitation of the quantum field always says the same thing: now. Because now is the threshold where you are freed from the weight of the past and the possibilities of the future call to you. The simplest way to understand that you have crossed this threshold is this: you realize that old stories no longer affect you as much. Old fears no longer hold you back. And old cycles no longer pull you in. Even if you can't explain why you feel this way anymore, there is a sense of truth within you. A feeling that what is meant to be is happening. Envelops you. This feeling is the voice of your higher self, and that voice tells you, keep going. Because reality takes shape faster, sharper, and more consciously as you keep going. If some people have started to distance themselves from you during this period, if some paths have closed, or if some cycles have visibly broken, these are not losses. It is the resolution of frequency mismatches. Your new timeline cleanses the excess to connect you only with those who are in harmony. This cleansing may sometimes feel harsh, but it is never punitive. It is only to move you towards a more accurate experience. When the invitation of the quantum field is accepted, the universe does not fight you. It flows with you. Therefore, even the smallest sign that comes your way is no longer the same. Its meaning has expanded because you have changed. A word, a sequence of numbers, a dream, an emotion, a momentary intuition. Each is an echo that resonates with your transformation of consciousness. When you notice them, you begin to speak with the field. Because the field vibrates at the same frequency as the observing person. Now, all you have to do is accept that this invitation is not an end, but a beginning. You are moving towards a new timeline. You are gradually moving away from the limitations of your old self, your old thought cycles, and the excess you carry. Every choice you make by recognizing this activates a new possibility in the field of consciousness. Therefore, everything you feel is valuable. Therefore, every intuition you hear is important. Therefore, this video you're seeing isn't a coincidence. It's a sign of a door awaiting you. If your inner voice says, yes, this is true, then this is a confirmation of your vibration. This is the invitation from the quantum field to move you closer to yourself. And the moment you feel this, the journey has already begun. And perhaps the deepest truth is this: this invitation from the quantum field isn't an external call, but a reawakening of the oldest knowledge within you. You were born with this knowledge, but only now are you ready to hear it. Therefore, the path ahead may seem unknown, but it is not foreign to you, because this path is the same inner route you've long wanted to take but thought the time hadn't yet come.